Hello, everybody. This is the owners, the co-owners, the establishers of Fresno Sports Talk. And we're going to kind of switch tables today. And we have with us Brain Rivera, who does the Sunday conversation and does so much more and knows so much about the Grizzlies. We're going to talk hockey, but I want to just kind of sum up the Grizzlies in a minute real quick. Brain Rivera is with us. Not even say guest. It's basically like a owners meeting about hockey. And this is Darren Redmond. So, Brian, how are you?
Good, Darren. Good to see you this morning.
Well, it's good to see you too, my friend. And where you work out of? Well, what?
I'm inside Gupper's Hockey Shop right now, down at Gateway Ice Center.
Excellent. Got to get the plugs in, my friend.
Yeah.
You know how this works. Now, you played a little hockey this morning. How'd that go?
Oh, well, it was 7 o'clock. Came early this morning, so
Right.
it was still not used to going to the rink when it's dark. Usually coming home from the rink when it's dark, but it went pretty well.
So again, I jump all around. You know that, and we're here to talk about the NHL. But let me ask you this: so we've had on the podcast John Moraski, one of the gyms from Shorzy, and there are these wonderful terms that we use. And they're sort of intermingled. But Shorzy is brought to the light for those people who aren't into hockey like you are and I am. There's adult league, there's beer league, and then there's over 40, over 50 leagues. Explain some of the misnomers and some of that's kind of like that about these leagues, because I find them so rich and so wonderful and keeping people healthy, by the way. And talk a little bit, because I know here in Fresno, the adult leagues are thriving. Your brother Gump's running. It's wonderful.
Yeah, no, it is just a great, it's a great fun atmosphere. It's a recreational. There's no contact, no checking. Just a bunch of older gentlemen that love the game, that just want to come out and get a little bit of exercise in during the week.
So, but let me. How does it feel when you're smoking a cigar with your buddy at 11:30 at night? You got to be up at 6.
Oh, it was a quick turnaround, let me tell you. I'm looking forward to a little break this afternoon and see the back of my eyelids for a little bit.
Well, that's a good thing. So, most people don't know this, or they may know this. You and I work together with the Fresno Monsters as well, and you are critically important as the color commentator there. And in your booth next to you is a gentleman, Kalal Mulaney, who provides color sometimes as well, and really is the eyes and ears. And he does a lot of technical stuff as well. And I bring all that up because you two also have something in common, and that's your hat.
Yes.
Yes. And that's, you guys are big Avs fans. So
Absolutely.
First of all, tell people, how did you become an Avs fan? And then we'll talk a little bit about the wonderful year they had last year, which ended up being Stanley Cup champions.
So basically, when I grew up playing hockey, I was on an all-star team from the time I was 10, and every Thanksgiving we'd go to Denver, Colorado. From the time I was 10 till the time I was 17, it was automatic. We knew we were going to Denver to play a Thanksgiving tournament. And then towards the end there, 1995, when they moved, I had already stopped going to the tournaments, but I love the city of Denver. I grew used, it's just a beautiful city. I fell in love with the Broncos, so I'm a Broncos fan as well, mostly because of John Elway. And then,
but you're not a Rockies fan, but a Giant fan instead, right?
Oh yeah, but I'm true Giants right here. That's not going anywhere. But really, it was John Elway and the Broncos, and then, once the Quebec Nordiques folded and they were moving to Colorado, it was just a natural fit. And I did like, back in the day, Colorado, before they became Colorado, and the Quebec team, they were a good team over on the East Coast.
Yes, the Stastny brothers.
Yeah, the Stastny brothers. They had Matt Sundin, Peter Forsberg, Adam Foy, all these guys that we recognize as Colorado Avalanche players were actually Quebec Nordiques, and they were just a few years off from being what they were in Colorado and in Quebec, and they just didn't hold it out. So it became a thing for me that once they had hockey in Denver, that was going to be my team.
That's excellent. So one of the reasons we were talking, and there might have been a cigar or two involved, about doing this NHL preview special on a Sunday conversation for Fresno Sports Talk. What are the surprises that you see coming this year? Who's the surprise team? I'd like to start with that.
I'm going to say the Ottawa Senators.
Wow, tell me why. By the way, there's, again, I keep name dropping. A person I had on my podcast, she is a huge Ottawa Senators fan, so it will be no surprise to her. But go ahead.
I mean, they're slowly rebuilding there, and they got Brady Tkachuk in the draft a few years ago, and they got Tim Stützle out of the draft a few years ago, and then this offseason, they added a big name player in Claude Giroux and Alex DeBrincat, who was a big time player with Patrick Kane in Chicago. So they're they got some solid defense and Thomas Chabot, and I think their weakness right now may be the goaltending, but they're starting to turn their franchise around. They've kind of been in the doldrums for quite a while, and you forget about them, but they're starting to put the pieces together. So I wouldn't be surprised if they make a good push and maybe squeak into the playoffs there towards in the maybe 6th, 7th, or 8th spot.
So it's hard for any of us to do this, and whether it's me with the Mets or the Rangers or Notre Dame or whatever, but I'm asking you to be a professional and take your fan hat off and do a deep dive on the Avalanche repeating. Because it's tough to repeat, but personally, I think they have all the pieces in place to repeat.
Yeah, there was a big hit losing Nazem Kadri, huge hit, and then Andre Burakovsky, he left for, I believe, Seattle. Those were two main cogs on that second line that you can just plug in for 60 points easy a piece. And yeah, there's a lot of returning players there for Colorado, but there's a big hole in that second line that some current players are gonna have to really step up their game, and they're gonna give it a shot. They're giving this kid Alex Newhook. He's second or third year player, and he's played center, so he'll fill in on the second line role. And there really says it's his job to lose. So I really think, depending on how well he does, is depending on how Colorado's going to go, because at the same point, Newhook, he's not a big guy, 5'9", 5'10", got good speed, but I mean, let's be realistic. The Western Conference, there's a lot of big centers in second and third lines and first lines that he's going to have to battle against. It's whether he's going to sink or swim or not.
Again, hockey, especially NHL, a lot more than I do. I'm more of a fan of a team. I know that than the division. But what I see happening with them, as I was preparing for this, we were going to do this, is I could see them treading water is the wrong term, but being in position and a trading deadline, shoring up that second line with those available rental players. A lot of teams have done that very well.
Yeah, and they have. They're a little tied up against the cap, so they're gonna maybe addition by subtraction.
Yep.
May lose a few guys, a few young prospects. And realistically, if you want somebody good, you got to trade somebody good. They just don't give people away,
right?
And they're talking. They say Patrick Kane's in the mix. Boy, that'd be a nice fit.
I heard that too.
In Colorado, but he plays the wing.
Right.
We need a center.
Right.
And
now you're talking about my Rangers.
Yeah, and can Patrick play center? Sure. I'm sure he could, but I'm sure he's probably more comfortable on the left wing or the right wing and more, so. And then, they also got the goaltender. They got the new goaltender from the Rangers, Georgiev.
Yep.
And
who's, by the way, very capable. Very capable.
Yeah, and he's got a little bit of proof, because that was his job in New York to take over for Lundqvist, and basically he got beat out by Shesterkin.
Yeah.
So he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, and I'm sure he's got something to prove. So there's a few question marks, but they're going to be in the hunt, and they'll be there at the end. And it's just whether or not they have to make that move to pick somebody up, or they stay with the horses that they have.
Who takes a step back?
Wow. That's a tough one.
We ask you tough questions here at Fresno Sports Talk.
Because I'm trying to think here. Because it was Edmonton, Vancouver. I'm gonna say Dallas takes a step back. They were in the mix towards the end, but they didn't seem to really improve their lineup much. Right? They kind of stayed what they have, and they're gonna have a new coach, and so and yeah, they got a young goaltender, Jake Ottinger, that's supposed to carry the reins for him. So I see them struggling a little bit, and that it's tough for me to say. I got friends in the organization, and I want them to do well, but I just think that they didn't do a whole lot this summer.
I think Trotz with the Flyers is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, Tortorella with the Flyers.
Tortorella, yes.
Yeah, I was actually just watching one of their videos right now. And he's a Dos Equis man of the NHL. He's the most interesting man because his press conferences are beauties.
Eat another donut. Is that ever going to be not cool? Is that the greatest chirp from a coach at all time? Yeah,
that's pretty good. And he just doesn't. He wants you to earn your keep, whether you're interviewing him, or it's one of his players. So I honestly really see the Flyers taking a step forward, and just out of sheer pushing from Tortorella.
So I'm not going to ask you, before I ask you about the Grizzlies, before we go, I'm not going to ask you who's going to win the Stanley Cup. Because as a wise sage once told me last night over a cigar, there was a manager for some team in baseball that predicted they were going to win the World Series again, and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. There's a little smile on your face.
Yeah, that's my hated Los Angeles Dodgers. His manager was running their mouth. He was confident from the day one that they were going to win the World Series this year. There was no doubt in his mind. And of course, as we all know, if you watched baseball, they lost last night to a great Padres team.
So I want to ask you a little bit about the Grizzlies, because you did some yeoman's work showing up there and doing the heavy lifting for us. And I still look at the Grizzlies as this wonderful, undervalued Fresno staple.
Correct.
You saw some really good players there. Talk a little bit about that before I let you go, about your experience there.
The Colorado Rockies are building a stable. They are building a stable of young players that in 3 to 5 years, they're all going to travel through Fresno if they keep the affiliation, and they're just going to shine at the major league level. They have this year. They had 4, maybe 5 of the top 20 prospects in the Rockies organization, all playing in Fresno. You got guys. The players got called up midway through the season, and they made the next step, and they struggled, which there's an adjustment to that. But towards the end, once they got comfortable, they exploded again. So talking with the media relations guy there, Stephen Rice, he's thinking, here in Fresno, but in 3 to 5 years, the Rockies are going to have a really solid young team that's going to be hard to play against. They're going to have some defensive guys, at shortstop and then the outfield, but they also guys that in the same positions can also hit the ball and add some power.
Without giving away any industry secrets of the Colorado organization or the Grizzlies, you and I, and mostly you, but you and I got to see how the sausage is made and talk a little bit about the quality of character of some of these people. And they are focused on their game, but yet they're good natured. You got to interview some of them. I mean, no names, and they're on diets and regimen and talk about that.
Yeah, just well, and it doesn't have to be just for baseball, but it's hockey as well, and I'm sure it is in basketball and stuff. But
you got to see this organization really; they take care of their players.
Yeah, they really do. They provided the players with regimented meals of what they're going to have to really make their bodies perform at their top level, and that says a lot, because when you think minor league baseball, single A baseball, you think of bus rides, you think of subs on the bus, you think of fast food on after the game. But here for the Rockies organization, they bring in catered meals for the players, and they're eating their protein, their energy, their everything, and I think in the long run, towards it's a long season, it's 140 some games. I think it really paid off for them. They seem not to have any letdown. They seem to have the same energy every game, and and it shows their personality, because they seem refreshed every time they come to the game. Every time they come to the park, you can see that they're happy to be there, because they know they're being taken care of. They're enjoying themselves. They enjoy the game. They enjoy the atmosphere.
Whenever we would record our interviews with some of the players, and again, Stephen was wonderful in setting all that up for us, and they always took it serious. They always gave you something to talk to them about. It was wonderful, because sometimes you forget that these kids are so young.
Yeah, we talked with a few players, and we talked to some that went the college route, but then we also talked to some that were just drafted and they're just finishing high school. And imagine, being 19 years old from a different country, don't speak English very well, coming to a town like Fresno. Luckily, there's other Latin players and Dominican players that they can speak language with, but it's really a life learning experience for them as well.
So before I let you go, I'm going to flip back real quick to the NHL, because I have one more question that really I've been obsessing with. We've talked a little bit about this. What's going to happen with the Phoenix franchise, the Arizona franchise?
They're not going anywhere. They seem to have a stable ownership now. The NHL Commissioner Bettman is committed to keeping Arizona, Phoenix, and the Phoenix Scottsdale area. They've got a new arena on the horizon out in the Tempe area, from what I understand, or the Scottsdale area. I can't remember, one of the two. But that's maybe like a 2-year process to build an arena. So they're playing over at a new arena for Arizona State. And it's only 5,000. It's kind of not very NHL-ish, but the new ownership seems to be a little more dialed in with the community. They were playing out in Glendale, which is 35 minutes away from the greater Phoenix. It's in the greater Phoenix area, but most people live in Scottsdale, Tempe. That's 35 minutes away. That's when your team's struggling,
right?
There's not gonna be a lot of people that are going to be going to that.
I can just watch it on TV.
Yeah, exactly. I go to the restaurant.
So we laugh about this, you and I. I'm a fan of Canadian. I listen to a lot of Canadian radio and Sirius XM. I just like the comedy, and I like, the SCTV kid, and but they talk a lot of sports. So their big questions is that we'll talk next time about the salary cap. But then where's Austin Matthews going to end up? They're really fearful he's going to leave Toronto.
Wow, that would be surprising.
Because,
That's
where Phoenix comes in the mix. Like they like the fact that Phoenix is struggling with that new arena because Arizona can't get them right now playing in front of 5,000 people.
Right.
But does he sign something with an escape clause, and then when they get the new arena, move over to Arizona?
No, I don't. I honestly, I don't see him leaving Toronto. He's got the big ticket right now. He's making
bank.
11 million a year, something like that, or he's whatever it is. He seems to thrive in Toronto, and that big market, even the biggest Canadian market there, that is a lot like the New York Yankees of baseball, where there's reporters there 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
It just does not seem to phase the kid.
Their thought was, and again, I've been listening to this a lot, and I thought it was like a passing thing, but it's been weeks now they're talking about this. And they're actually making some sense. Their thought is Wayne Gretzky to the Kings 2.0, that he's from the Southwest. For marketing purposes, it would just be a home run for the league.
If you look at it that way, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, right? That's a good thought, right? I mean, it's a
legitimate thought, and then, I read something just in passing, either this week or last week, that he's proud of his Mexican heritage that he has through his mother,
mm-hmm.
and he's glad to see more Mexican kids, especially in the Southwest, there joining, starting to play hockey. So maybe that is a plausible thing to happen. But
that's why I want to ask you about it, because again, you're the NHL guy, and I know you're going to do that on my podcast going forward. But that's legitimate thought. I mean, from a
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Because at the same time you see, say Gretzky 2.0, but whoever thought Gretzky was ever going to leave Edmonton?
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yep.
He was beloved in Edmonton, and when he was traded away, he loved Edmonton as well. He cried in his press conference. People were crying all over the city, that he was leaving. So, wow, if we have that again with Matthews, that's, it ended up being a good run for hockey in the long run with, creating the Arizona franchise and Dallas and Tampa Bay and Florida, LA, the Ducks, the Sharks. I don't see that kind of growth again, but I do see it will stabilize that Arizona area as far as the fan base, with people coming to see him every night.
I know this was a preview show of the NHL, but when we start talking hockey, and we'll end up talking marketing, because I love that and everything. What's going on with Seattle? It's sort of like that was like a big thing, sold out, but you don't hear much about them. Was the Vegas a prototype, or was it we're not going to kind of let this kind of happen again? And because Seattle's sort of dark now.
Yeah, no. Vegas was kind of a one-off. They found some loopholes, did some, I want to say some backroom deals, but
little gray.
Yeah, they toiled in the gray area. And it's known. It's nothing that hasn't been said. And I think Seattle just went about it a different way. Vegas, what do you think Vegas? When you think the city of Las Vegas, what do you think of? Glitz, glam, sparkle, big splash. Right? That's what they did. They made a big splash in that city. The first pro franchise. They're like, we have to be good. Right? Seattle, kind of the other way around. We're going to build our franchise a little bit, and in 3-4 years, we're going to be a nice, solid franchise. And I really think that's what they're going. They picked up, another solid goalie this year in Martin Jones. They got a couple of first round draft picks that are going to be really good. They picked up, like I said, Burakovsky, who's in Seattle this year, a free agency. So they're doing a slow build.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for your time in this Sunday conversation with Fresno Sports Talk, hosted by Brian Rivera, and he was on the other side of the chair this week. I like that, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, we'll talk to you soon, Derek.
Bye.
Bye.